Whenever you are negotiating, take long, very long pauses before you ask questions. It makes people vomit the truth. What is a mind trick you know of? You know that awkward moment when you and a stranger are walking towards each other, but need to get past each other and you get confused and end up doing a left to right dance. Not for me! When I walk through large crowds of people. To avoid walking into anyone, I simply stare at my destination. I look no one in the eyes. People actually will watch your eyes and they avoid the direction you are going. If I look into people's eyes as we are walking into each other, we are sure to collide. You have to let people know where you intend to go with your eyes. It always works for me. Try it! Your turn. Teach me some good mind tricks. Edit. Wow, I didn't know there were that many mind tricks. Thanks Redditors for your knowledge and wisdom! Thank you Masterthide for the comment. To add onto the OP comment, simply turning your head to indicate which direction you are going works as well. One of the best responses I've heard comes from what appears to be a duck. Tell any male adolescent that you think their voice is high. Their voice will immediately drop on their response. Another good comment from dmalfoy123. When you're driving, stare at the back of someone's head or their rear view mirror and focus all your energy. They will eventually change lanes. In class, if it's a presentation where someone has to present without looking at notes or anything like that, and while they're up in front of classroom presenting, some people forget what they're talking about, space out, freak out, and lose their train of thought. To counter this, nod your head at the end of each sentence they say, confirming what they're saying. They will somehow use this as a motivator and 9 times out of 10 will keep presenting without fault. If you're in a crowded social group, restaurant, bar, party, etc., and you want to know if someone is checking, you ought try this: turn sideways from them. They will be either 90 degrees right or left of you. Then, very obviously, look at your watch. Even if you don't wear one, lift your wrist, then point at your watch and nod thoughtfully. Overacting is perfectly acceptable. If they are keeping tabs on you, even peripherally, they will have a sudden urge to know the time and will either look at their own watch, cell phone, or casually look at the various obvious places where someone would put a clock. Edit. So yawning seems to be another method. However, do you think the world's most interesting man would more likely be seen yawning or looking at his watch in a social setting? I hypnotized myself into quitting smoking. Every time I had the impulse to light up, I simply told myself, what a strange thing for a non-smoker to think. Eventually, I convinced myself that the cravings were anomalous and could safely be ignored. I was at the front row of a concert and needed to get out mid-show. No one was letting me by. I decided to fake like I was about to throw up. The crowd had parted for me like I was Moses. Worked all the way through the crowd. Not one person stood in my way for more than a second. When I got out, I just walked normally, troll face. I'm a paramedic. When a patient is possibly faking unconsciousness, we have 2 tricks to determine if they're really unconscious or not. First, you can lightly brush their eyelashes with your finger. Their eyes will flutter if they're faking it. Alternatively, if they're on their back, you can lift their arm over their face and let it go. A conscious person will drop their arm away from their face. Finally, a trick to see if someone is faking a neck injury or neck pain. Put a thermometer in their mouth while checking their vitals, then ask them a yes or no question while looking them in the eyes. If you aren't looking directly at them, they tend to answer with a strained or but if you're looking directly at them, they will usually nod their head. Someone who is faking the pain can do this with ease. And yes, there are a lot of calls where people fake pain, illness, etc. for various reasons. If you're trying to find something, try looking right to left as opposed to left to right. Your eyes tend to skim over things if you search in the direction you are used to reading in, so skim the opposite way. It takes me a bit more effort to do this, but I notice more details. If I need to remember to do anything at all the next day, I will put something in my room out of place. This works every time. Say for example, I really want to remember to email my professor. Before leaving for class, I will put a movie on the floor. I will initially think, why is that? Oh, right, email Ernie. A key technique for me, when trying to convince somebody to do something, offer them 2 options, either of which is okay with you. Humans have a hard time selecting outside of the given options. Example: so, did you want me to pick you up at 7:00 or 7:30? Do you want me to pick up the $1.51 or the $1.35? During a job interview, you want to keep eye contact with the person you're talking to. It makes you seem more alert and confident. Here's the trick. Every 5 or 10 seconds, switch the eye you're looking at. It's such a small motion that the other person can't see it, but it makes your eyes look like they're sparkling, which makes you look very interested in what the other person is saying. Probably works for dating too. Clarification. Some people have asked for clarification on how this is supposed to work. On the small motion part, you have to be a few feet away from the other person, otherwise the angle your eyes have to shift to look at the other eye is easily noticeable. On the sparkling, since your eyes aren't perfectly spherical, when they move the reflection of any lights in the room changes slightly. If the movement is small enough, all the other person sees is the light's reflection moving on your eye, thus sparkling. Disclaimer. Apparently some people can tell what you're doing and find it very annoying. If you're trying this and you get weird looks, you should probably stop. There's something in sales called the Sullivan nod. Basically, when you're asking someone something, nod up and down while you're asking. Their mirror neurons start firing, and they begin nodding and agreeing with you subconsciously. 60% of the time it works every time. I live in inner-city Akron, Ohio. Needless to say, there is a pretty high crime rate around the university center. So I took a self-defense course at the university and learned the best self-defense tricks I could have never thought of. Act crazier than the person attacking you. I'm talking mental patient on PCP with a bad case of Jack Nicholson insane. 9 times out of 10, they will see you as unpredictable and not want to even mess with you. For example, I was across the street from my apartment at a Circle K buying a 40 and a pack of smokes at about midnight 30, and this guy comes up from nowhere and asks me if I want to make some money. I reply, no thanks, I have a job. The clerk behind the window disappears to get my stuff and I'm stuck outside in the open standing right next to what amounts to a drug-selling would-be burglar. After a while the silence and tension gets unbearable and I ask him what his proposed opportunity entails. Just then, the clerk comes back, gives me my stuff, and shouts out the window, "Yo, what's up, dental?" or something along those lines. The shady guy shakes his head and starts to walk away. I pay for my stuff, start walking along under the lights along the white wall of the building so I can be seen in case anything happens, and I see to my left that this shady guy is following me, walking parallel to me in the parking lot where it's dark. He calls over to me and starts walking towards me. I'm all like, nope, so I curve my arms up so my hands are in my armpits, and I crouch down with a wide stance and walk sideways in a crab walk / gorilla style fashion, and start screaming obscenities about aliens and Arabic coffee. The guy takes one look at me and makes a run for the bus stop. My favorite works best in sports. It's more of a way to get into other people's mind and screw them up. Say you're playing against a guy / girl who is just on fire. Completely in the zone and dominating, casually ask, "Hey, what do you change to X better?" Or something to that effect. I've done it in volleyball where I ask a guy who's been hitting amazing, "I've never seen you jump so high before, what do you change?" More often than not it throws them off their game. Done it in hockey too. "Hey, your shot looks amazing. What foot are you leading with?" When trying to get away with something sketchy, not illegal per se, but frowned upon, walk into the place like you own it. Don't glance around, don't even stop for a second or look confused. 9 times out of 10 nobody will question you. You can get away with lots of things that way. I work security and in my place of employment, we were recently trained to recognize this tactic. The new training was brought about due to a high amount of unauthorized access carried out by a group in our area. They were getting into government offices by dressing in a suit, carrying a suitcase and talking on the phone. Many times they were able to go right in front of security guards and even nod at them and smile. The videos showed the guards nodding and waving while smiling back and even helping them find their way. Most people want to help others, and this can be used to exploit their kindness.